listening to Living Art.
Welcome to Living Art. You're with your co-host Michael Carson and Michael Woodson, and it's great to be back after the fun drive. How are you doing tonight, Michael?
I'm good. Here on KPFT Houston, Caroline Street. We're coming to you live. I'm really excited about our guest tonight, Brittany Bly, who's got a pop shop event coming up, and we'll talk about that, but I need to mention a couple of other things. There's an important thing going on at the Garnet Coleman Gallery. It's, I think, called the 3131 Gallery, and it's in the Emancipation Park area, and it's happening on November the 10th, coming up here in 2 days. And it celebrates the founding members of Project Row Houses. So that's going to be a pretty big deal. And that starts at 6:30. So we hope to catch you out there celebrating that. Now it's an institution called PRH, Project Row Houses. And also, I haven't been there in a while, but Tom Fody, a good friend of the show, is having something at La Carafe Friday night at 9:30. So we'll be playing some music. So if you haven't checked out La Carafe, like I haven't in a long time, you might want to do that. And also, there's the Pop Shop Houston, which is going on very soon, and Brittany Bly is here to talk to you about that. So welcome to the show, Living Art. Brittany, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us about your event.
Yeah, Pop Shop Houston. So we're actually in our 12th year, but this is our first year back since COVID. We're moving it to TXRX Labs Makerspace. So that's a makerspace in the East End District. So it's east side of downtown. It's 6501 Navigation, 77011. The event is November 18th and 19th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pop Shop Houston is basically like Etsy come to life. It's all kinds of handmade makers, fun activities, things to do, lots of art demos. And the types of things that you'll find there range from t-shirts and jewelry, terrariums, candles, soaps, all kinds of different stuff. And it's handmade by local makers. So it's a really fun, cool way to shop for the holidays or shop for yourself. Everything is definitely fun, cool, fresh, modern, sort of trendy, and full of awesome colors, awesome styles. It's a really fun time.
Tell us about the people who are going to show there. Just kind of, what did you have to organize?
So basically, as far as what I organize, it's really everything. We have food trucks, and we're going to have a glass blowing demo with Houston House of Glass.
Glass blowing?
Yes.
Is that legal?
It is.
Cool.
Yes,
they're
going to be doing it.
That by now.
They're going to be doing it outdoors, and it's really just a small setup with a propane tank. But that's actually a remarkably good question. Are you allowed to do that? Or is the fire marshal going to be concerned about this? But no, it's actually really safe, and it'll be in a contained space. So it's totally safe for kids, safe for anyone that hasn't been around that. It's not anything that people are going to put their hands in. It'll be kind of blocked off. But just if you have any interest in that sort of thing, then that'll be really fun. TXRX Labs Makerspace is going to have jewelry making demos. You'll be able to stamp your own jewelry. They're going to be making holiday ornaments, so you can make your own ornaments with them. They're going to have tours of the building as well. So there's going to be a lot of things.
Now, when you say them or we, who do you mean?
When I say we, I mean Pop Shop America. So that's me. I'm the founder of Pop Shop America. And when I say them, I'm talking about TXRX Labs Makerspace, which is the host of the event. So that's the location that we're going to be at. So TXRX Labs Makerspace. So just to back it up one step, what is a makerspace? A makerspace is a place where you can sign up like a gym membership, and they have lots of different maker tools. They have wood shop, they have metal shop, they have 3D printers, they have laser cutters, they have CNC routers. They have so much different equipment so that you can make things for yourself, for a business, as a hobby. If you're making, art, whatever it is, you can make it there. They also have classes. So they have pottery classes, jewelry classes, woodworking, metalsmithing, all kinds of stuff
This
in
is
between.
kind of a for-profit or a
No,
.org kind of thing?
they're a nonprofit. So everything they do is definitely like a kind of a self-contained. It's not, intended to be, some kind of money-making scheme or
Who
anything
does
like
that? Who's involved with that?
The founder of TXRX, so the president of TXRX is not he's one of the original founders, but they had a few that kind of phased out of it along the way. But the person in charge now, his name is Roland, and how to pronounce his last name, my goodness, it's like got way too many K's and like SKIs in it. So like,
Definitely tough.
I'm not even going to attempt it on the air. And like, if you saw, you'd be like, oh no, I'm not doing it. But everyone just calls him by his first name, which is Roland. And he's incredibly talented at what he does, which is seeing a grand vision. TXRX is the largest makerspace in the country, probably in the world. So it's over 60,000 square feet. So it's a really great place for something like Pop Shop Houston because they have these really big, beautiful gallery walls and hallways and like white walls everywhere and lots of different studios and businesses that are there in that space that are very like-minded. So things like there's a business there that's the Prison Entrepreneurship Program, and they're a nonprofit that literally helps prisoners start their own businesses. So they're not participating in Pop Shop Houston, but that's just to like tell you what kind of community is there and like what type of people are interacting with this space.
And your organization is comprises what?
Pop Shop America, we're a for-profit. But
And-
I say that like, oh, we're a for-profit. We're not like making like so much. It's not a money-making scheme. And we will actually, in 2024, we will start a 501c3 chapter of Pop Shop Houston because this festival is not intended to be some kind of profitable event. It's free to attend. There's free drinks courtesy of Eighth Wonder and Buffalo Bayou Brewery. It's not the type of thing. It's really for the makers. It's really for the community, and it's really about having a good time.
Well, do two things for me. One is explain your website and the way people can get involved with your organization. And then maybe you can image what will be going on with you at TXRX. Is that right?
TXRX Labs,
Yeah.
yeah. So you can find us at popshopamerica.com. On the website, if you click on events, you'll see Pop Shop Houston right there. So hopefully it's really easy to find. Just go to the website, click on events. Now, what we do when we're not hosting this festival is we make craft supplies and craft kits. So that's where I spend the bulk of my time from day to day. So we have everything from candle making kits to terrarium kits, and it's basically like a project. So it includes every single thing that you need to make that project from beginning to end. So instead of having to go to like a million different stores and you end up with too much of one thing and not enough of another and that kind of thing, you get everything you need in this self-contained unit. As in addition to instructions. So a big part of what I do is experiment with supplies. And I feel like I know so many different, art making materials and supplies and techniques really inside and out. So I try to cut through a lot of that troubleshooting so that when people get to making and get to crafting, they can really have fun doing it and not worry so much about, oh, did I get the right kind of thread for this project? Are these the right kind of plants for this terrarium? Did I get the right kind of candle wax to make these candles that I want to make? Those kinds of things. So I just try to make it easier, make it fun.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What will people see when they go to TXRX Saturday and Sunday?
They're going to see lots of different makers that have all kinds of cool stuff. There's going to be like one of my favorite makers. Her name is Elaine Bradford. She makes these like really great like knitted cactus sculptures. So if you have a black thumb, if you're just like a plant murderer, then you can get one of these cute little tabletop planters of like a knit cactus or like a knit succulent in its own little kind of cute planter or like teacup. They're really fun. There's Vincent Fink, if you're familiar with him, he'll be there, and he makes really stunning detailed artwork that he puts onto t-shirts and other collectibles. I have a bunch of his t-shirts. One of my favorites is like a Nikola Tesla t-shirt that's wildly detailed, but he also has pieces like he always participates in like the Lawndale shows, during the summer, and I don't know if he still has a studio at Winter Street, but he'll participate in like a lot of those types of shows as well.
So there are things to buy and things to
Is there
Things
also
to buy, things to do, things
and
to see.
do you have to sign up for the workshops or anything that are there, or is it just you
No.
walk in and
Yeah,
can
you just walk
participate?
right in.
Okay.
And that's in 2 weeks. I should make that clear, right?
Yeah,
18th
it's not.
and 19th.
It's not this weekend. It's next weekend.
Okay. All right. Yeah, they just show up, walk around, enjoy. You said free drinks, was that? Or you have
Yes.
to pay? Okay. That's a big
I
deal.
know.
And so we have that, and then of course they can buy things from Pop Shop itself there as well. Is it
Yes.
part of it? Okay.
Yeah,
All right, all right.
absolutely.
Okay, very cool. And then you've done this before in previous years, before COVID, or is this the first time you're doing it in this way?
This is the first time we've been at TXRX Labs. Now
Okay.
they just moved actually like during COVID, so this is a kind of new space for them as well. Before that, they were still in East End. They were still the largest makerspace in the country, but they were only at 20,000 square feet.
And now they're at 60,000?
They're at 60,000
Okay.
square feet.
In the whole world. That's something to be proud of, Houston
know.
having the largest makerspace.
I
That's
know.
incredible.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And so people and this in general, people just show up or they sign up and they can create and make there. And
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It's a cool idea. And then, and you said, I love that idea. That's like kind of like in-person Etsy, right? Like, because everyone loves like Etsy and like doing this online world, but this is a way to interact with it. In a way that
Yeah,
you
and
can-
actually see the things that you're thinking about buying and interact with the maker. And
Right.
for makers, it's really great because you can talk to people instead of it just being anonymous and online. You know, see what people like and just, have fun with your community and meet other makers. So people always become friends, with the makers that are set up near them or, people that help them like load in and out. And so it fosters that community in a really fun way.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I would feel like craft work requires participation, right, and being seen and being part of something. So it's cool to have that space.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
We don't, there's more pop-ups or things that are like this than when I first started. So when I started in 2012, there was nothing like this in Houston. And that's why I did it, is because it existed in other cities, but just not here. And I already was a maker at that time. And I'm like, I want to be able to interact with other makers. I want to be able to figure out what's working, what's not working. And, Houston really responded to that. And since then, Houston has really changed. Like, there's definitely more pop-ups and not just centralized around downtown, but, you see it even kind of like outside of the loop or that kind of thing. But definitely that's it, it just changes over time.
Do you feel like it's grown, but has like the art itself changed too, or the type of craft that's done? Does that just depend on world events? Or,
I mean,
yeah.
it always changes. It's so interesting. It's always evolving. Styles change, color schemes change. So you can definitely see something that was like trendy 10 years ago might have that like 10 years ago feel to it.
Okay.
But what's really great is that like even outside of these different spaces, these pop-ups, we don't really have a lot of opportunity in the art world for these types of things. For things that are functional, things that are usable, things that are collectible, things that are affordable too. So, you can buy, prints or t-shirts or things like that from artists at a place like Pop Shop Houston. And it's something that, I can afford and I don't have to, worry too much about, my spending habits, if I want to like get something from a local artist.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a big deal when it comes to art. Like, to participate, sometimes you feel like it's above your financial world. Like, it's a big thing to get involved with. But this way you can, it's part of the community. You can kind of jump in and become part of your household in a very real way. And it's, just like directly applied and people get to enjoy it. So it's fantastic.
You're listening to Living Art on KPFT Houston, live from Caroline Street. Glad to have you with us. Tonight our guest is Brittany Bly, and she's got a Pop Shop Houston thing going, and that's November 18th and 19th. And what's the best way to check this out online?
The easiest thing is to go to popshopamerica.com and click on events.
There you go.
That's pretty easy. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Like, what got you involved with the arts and in Houston?
What got me involved in the arts? What's so funny, like, I don't know where it came from, but one of my favorite childhood memories of, like, I was just born this way is when I was, like, maybe 6 or 7, my mom told me that she was going to take me to the Museum of Fine Arts. And I went into my closet and I picked out like an all black dress and black flats. And I like slicked my hair back. And I went to the museum and I'm like, I need to like contemplate these giant paintings and not speak at all while I'm here. And it's like, there's just
What a
something
good instinct
in me.
at that age.
Like-
you know everything about those places already.
Also, like, why was I so serious? It's like this look good, like that's kind of
That's a
dramatic.
hilarious story.
But I was just like that. Like, I've just always been interested in it, and it's
You actually
definitely.
slicked your hair back and everything.
I swear, this is
like
a
a
true
French
story.
existentialist. Yeah, okay, I love it. Okay.
Like, where did I even get that idea? But it's definitely something that's stuck with me. You know, my undergraduate is in art history, and I mean, I'm sort of using my degree, I guess, in a kind of a creative way. You know, I make craft supplies and craft kits, so I get to, you know, experiment with craft supplies pretty much all day, every day. And so that's really fun. But it's definitely just something that I've always done, and it's something that I love to do.
Have to ask, when you went, do you remember like the art that you saw when you went when you were 7? Does anything
I
stick
wish
out?
I did.
Just the experience of
Yes.
getting ready for it. Okay. Okay.
How did you answer the question when people asked you, what are you going to do with an art degree?
Oh, I mean, my dad was really disappointed. My dad is an engineer, and he was like, you are going to be an engineer. And it's like, no, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm just not. What's really funny is that, like, when I was still making artwork, you know, before I started making what I do now, which are, you know, craft supplies and craft kits, a lot of it really did involve engineering and math. And so it was a big influence in that way. I mean, honestly, I never really had an answer for anyone, and I didn't really know. I mean, I thought I would go into academics, but I mean, that's just a very nearly impossible profession, I think, to be in right now.
Well, what drove you to be so counter-practical?
My gosh.
The hard questions. Here.
I mean, can
I-
you remember thinking it doesn't matter what I do with my degree or something like that?
I mean, I just loved it so much. I just figured I would find a way, you know, and I've always been really hardworking. And so I didn't worry about that too much. I knew, like, I didn't worry about, you know, what would happen next. It just, maybe it felt like a calling. Like, this is the thing that's important to me. This is where I want to spend my time. So this is what I will do.
Love it.
I
Yeah,
know it's
that's what
very,
it's all
but
about.
it's also, it's like, my gosh, I should never take that for granted, because it's only in this time and place, like here in the United States, here in Houston, like I went to college at a time that college was still really affordable. My first semester at U of H was right around $1,000. By the time I was graduating, each semester was closer to $4,000. So we saw like a huge spike around the time that I was doing my undergraduate. But I mean, I think for right now, it's like, I don't want to take that for granted, because I don't think that a lot of people would have that same opportunity. And so I do like really think like it was just luck and like time and place that I was even able to do that.
Now, you're pretty young, but maybe like the idea that education was not just about a career.
Yes, I was definitely still in that. So what's wild is that I'm actually like the tail end of Gen X. I think that my attitude, people, you know, assume that I'm a little bit younger than I am, or hopefully maybe I like look a little younger than I am. Wink, wink, you know, just agree with me. So yeah, I mean, education was still like stressed in the way that it was important for everyone in my generation to go to college. That was just assumed you were going to go to college. Now it's so different, and I don't mind the way that it's changed, where, you know, there's so many other things that we can do with our time, like vocational certificates, or just bypassing that and going straight into entrepreneurship. Like, that's completely valid as well. Or like technical degrees, like learning how to, you know, build websites, or working with, you know, data and analytics and things that are just, there's so many different opportunities now that I don't think college is like the one answer. But certainly I'm like the tail end of like everyone got a degree, and it was totally normal to have like an impractical degree.
Yeah, I was part of that same. I'm the same space as you, I think.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like you had that weird opening where you could just be there, not have to justify it, because college degree was okay in itself, you know.
Right.
yeah, I'm kind of happy I was, because it allowed, but you're right, it's a different world. And it's a good thing. Probably people are much more, they know what they want. What was the kind of art that you were interested in when you were doing like more like the school art, we'll call it?
Very interested in postmodernism and contemporary art. I wanted to spend all of my time in galleries and living spaces. I did not want to be in the library all day long.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
How would
Yeah.
you define postmodernism?
So anything where different techniques and styles and materials just blend together in a way that it's not just it comes from one space or one place or one thought, and it's like pulls from so many different traditions before it, but blends them together into something that's a little bit more seamless. I think that's the easiest. Hopefully that's like an easy way.
Yeah,
to
no, that
kinda
makes
get
sense to
into
me.
it. Okay.
Definitely. And like, why gallery spaces? I know because libraries can be boring, but I mean, like, why gallery spaces in terms of, did you just like seeing the art, or did you like the space itself? Is there something about it?
I mean, there's definitely like the white box that, yes, I'm obsessed with just like that all light white box. Like I'm like a vegetable where I just need light.
Right.
And so
It's
all
like the manila
white.
where the light comes in from. Okay, I see what
Yes,
you're saying.
so like all white walls is extremely appealing to me. But it's also a living space. So in the library, we're dealing with things that are old and things that are gone and things that are past. And that's, there's a beauty in that, certainly. And, it can be so quiet and peaceful. And I think a lot of people really respond to that. But I just wanted to see, what was going to come next and like, where is the action and like, what's new, and wanted that excitement. So I actually, when I was in that world, when I was of that age, I spent more time with people in the arts department than people in the art history department.
Yeah, I can see why. Yeah, I love this idea as a living space. It's moving and vibrant, and yeah, and even how it's set up in terms of light coming in is completely different. And yeah, when you think about the visual arts, it has that feeling, it has that movement to it. Yeah, over any kind of history of it, and so I can see the appeal. And then, did you actually create in those spaces at all, or were you just kind of enjoying them when you were finishing college or after college?
I did used to make art objects, and actually, what's really funny is that this summer I got an email from someone in the U of H special collections that they had chosen one of my pieces that I'd made 10 or 15 years ago to be included in a Blaffer Gallery exhibition that was of zines that just closed maybe 2 weeks ago. So out of
congrats.
nowhere, I got this email that was like, we're including one of your pieces, in a Blaffer Gallery show. And I'm like, wow, like I don't even make stuff anymore. Like that's so cool.
It's something special.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was like the best day. It was like the best email. I was like, thank you so much. But yes, I did used to make things. The passion to make certainly doesn't go away. It for me, it's just something that's changed over time. So what I make is different now than what I made then. But yeah, it's definitely, I made stuff when I was a little kid. Like I used to go door to door selling drawings when I was a little kid. And I'm like, this is just like a totally normal thing. And it's like, wow, I'm an adult and I'm still doing the exact same thing that I did when I was, a little kid.
Yeah, the same one they dressed up for the art museum and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't change. Sometimes people can change.
Right.
But people don't change fundamentally.
I don't think so. I think they could become more themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, and I can see your current, like what you're doing now. Do you feel that you use some of the art techniques when you're thinking about kind of making these kits and things, or what do you? How do you see the connection between the two? I mean, it's art, but do you see it? And it's also interesting too, in talking about postmodernism, right? And like, where does art go? We discuss that often in this show, and like, where is it today? And it could be argued that artisan crafts and things like this is where art has moved in some real way. And do you see a direct connection between your older forms of art and the new art?
Yes, absolutely, because a lot of what I do is education around how to use these supplies and how to try out new techniques. So, for example, we have a ton of different clay tutorials on the website and clay making kits, or we have lots of different watercolor tutorials and watercolor kits. And so it's definitely still me making these projects and thinking other people will respond to this. Let's teach them how to do it step by step and then create a kit where they get all the supplies so they can do that step by step. So in that sense, rather than, a painting being on a wall and maybe it's only accessible if you, go to a gallery opening, or if you're a collector and you're purchasing this item, instead it's something for everyone, and it's something for beginners, and it's something where people can participate in the art making experience and not just view the artwork, in a gallery or in a museum.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because if I remember, like in those 60s, 70s, a lot of artists were debating, like, where is art going? And it needed to become more performance-based, more interactive with the audience, more democratic, too. Like, anyone can participate and create because we live in this new world. And then, yeah, in some very real ways, I think that is the postmodern, where art has moved and where the art is happening. And we're always kind of concerned about that here. So it's exciting to have spaces like this and to see how it could lead to something like that as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I totally agree. It's like you can definitely do that on the one hand, or I think like another space where art is moving are things like Meow Wolf, where it's like intensely immersive.
What's Meow Wolf?
Oh my gosh.
Is that like meow
if
like a
there's
cat,
like
or?
one good thing that was coming out of this program, like may it be this. Meow Wolf is a artist group that have spaces in New Mexico. They have one in Las Vegas. They have a new one that's near Dallas. It's like Grapevine, so it's like in between Dallas, Fort Worth. And they're going to open one in Houston, I believe next year, or maybe 2025. But it's basically you walk into a space that, like, imagine you go into an art object that's huge. Like, think like the size of a department store, where you can interact with all kinds of beautiful things and walk through spaces, but it tells a story at the same time that, like, slowly you can kind of gather snippets of that story as you go. It's so interesting, and I think that it's definitely falls in line with what you were saying, where it's like, should art become more interactive and immersive, and like, how does it change? And I think that maybe what I'm doing is sort of like the flip side of that, where it's like very democratic and accessible to all people, and something that you get to do, at home in your spare time, or it feels very beginner friendly.
Yeah, no, and it's in their home. The space is moved into the home, or you create these like interactive spaces where, and the Meow Wolf, they like go through, and it's almost like a movie, like stories being told, and they put it together. Why is it called Meow Wolf? That's what's why.
I don't know. But it's lots of different spaces, and they all have these like interesting themes and stories, and it all kind of like, as you start to move from room to room and space to space, you can start to gather kind of more of like the meaning of how these things tie together.
Huh. Okay.
It's immersive and it's audio visual, I assume.
Yes.
All the different senses.
Yeah, and sculptural. Like
Okay.
more sculptural than anything else.
Okay.
Because of the rooms.
Yes, because you're in all these interesting, unique spaces. Like, for example, at the Meow Wolf and Grapevine, there's a tiny room that it's a circular room, and every single wall, I'm going to say maybe there's like 8 or 10 walls, every single wall is a refrigerator door. And so you open up these refrigerator doors and you can walk through most of them, but some of them you just open them up and it's like a kind of its own little sculptural space. And then you move through it to the next room. But while you're in this circular fridge room, every maybe 30 seconds or a minute, this like disco ball that's in the ceiling starts kind of going crazy. Like all of a sudden there's like lights, and like the music will get louder, and like the lights will dim, and then it'll kind of go back to normal. The other thing about all of these fridges is that none of the objects inside are like normal things that necessarily belong in a fridge. Or maybe they do, but they're just warped and distorted and different and just not what you're used to. They kind of pull at the senses. But they have tons of different rooms like that.
You're listening to Living Art, learning about
Meow
Meow
Wolf.
Wolf.
Meow Wolf.
On KPFT Houston, live on Caroline Street. I'm Michael Woodson with Michael Carson. Our guest is Brittany Bay. She has the Pop Shop coming up November 18th and 19th. That's at the 6500 block of Navigation at the TXRX Maker Space. And you can check that stuff out at Pop Shop Houston, your website?
PopShopAmerica.com.
Pop Shop America. I got to get
I think
that
if you
one.
go to PopShopHouston.com, I think it'll just forward you to Pop Shop America.
I don't know. Is it whose turn is it to ask a question?
Well, no, I was thinking like I just want to come back to this idea of spaces and so yeah, you have the Meow Wolf as like this interactive, and then Pop Shop Houston and what you do, I feel definitely has this feel where people participate and take into their own homes. It's spread, art is everywhere now. And I just love that story you started with the yourself as like a little girl, dressed in all black, and in this like holy space. I'm going to like some people will get in arguments about like museums being like almost like the new churches, and like for a very long time they were, but it seems to be breaking down a little bit. There's other spaces that you can go to, and it's moved away from that, and art has become, it's gone back to the people in some really valuable, exciting way, right? And something to be, celebrated that we're part of this. Rather, we're often in the show thinking about, what happened to art, but I think that's something very exciting and good that happened to art, And I love museums. I love sitting around in those kind of holy spaces, but at the same time, there's something very distancing about that, right? And is that what art is supposed to be? And so I think I love the idea of the crafts and kind of helping people understand crafts and making it not even feel distant to them, because you said that you create these kits and they don't have to go get the pieces themselves, right? They
Right.
It's all right there for them.
That's a big part of it. I have way too many craft supplies. Like, we're in a 4,000 square foot warehouse, so it's just like literally filled to the brim with craft supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Every artist I know has a studio, has a craft room, and I just try to minimize waste and just make it to where you have everything you need without all of that running around and stress and trying to figure out what brand is better, or what style is going to work better. I just try to make all of that easy.
Okay, right. I'm sure people love that. And then each year do you kind of set out new like how do you figure out what kind of kits you're going to create, or what each year do you just kind of figure out yourself what you're doing, or do you kind of reach out to your the people who are buying it, or how do you kind of work year by year?
That's a great question. So we do have some subscription boxes. So we do create at least one new painting kit, one new craft supply kit, and one new adult coloring book per month. But how we choose them, there's definitely, like, overall I have like sort of a schedule where I know I'm going to do at least one clay kit per year. I know I'm going to do at least one kit that involves essential oils, like some kind of soap making or candle making, or like essential oils something. So I have some kind of like ideas like that, like on a schedule, but it's really just what feels right for the season, like what feels like it's different than the thing that they might have done, in previous months, what is kind of different and fits in. So we definitely try to do like lots of different stuff. Mm-hmm. And so variety is a big thing. It's a, big priority in the creation of these craft kits. So I spend a lot of time on Pinterest. I spend a lot of time on other websites, just kind of thinking about ideas. And I spend a lot of time at like Texas Art Supply or Michael's, just roaming the aisles, trying to just like looking at supplies and seeing what's inspiring.
Wow. You're a curator.
Yeah.
That people trust your aesthetic for what they used to create.
Yes, that's so interesting. That's definitely a big part of it, to have that kind of personal style that you're able to translate for other people.
Yeah, it's almost like you're running this gallery. I mean, you're creating it, but you're also like, curating the show for the people on like a constant basis. Yeah.
That's so funny. I didn't even really think about, that's a continuous thread in the work that I've done, for the last 20 years. But yeah.
Yeah, it's important setting up spaces for those people who don't know. They go into the museum and they're just lost. And so important people. Yeah, mm-hmm. That's awesome. And what was like, would you say the most, I guess, popular, I know things shift, but in terms of like the type that people tend to buy, is there something that people love most about?
Yes.
What's that?
The most popular thing we do are candle making kits, macrame kits, and terrarium kits. And I mean, we could just literally do like those three things. And I mean, that's the bulk of what we do. Beyond that, I would say watercolor is the most popular after that. But candle making kits, I mean, my goodness, that is like the most popular craft.
Why do you think candles are so popular? I love candles. But,
I love candles. I think people use them, they burn them, then they need more. So
Okay,
there's like a
right.
depletion factor, right? Like if you're making soap, people are going to use it and then they need more. So it's like it's a better business, than if you're making like an art object where people buy it once and then they can keep it for a lifetime. Candle making, it's really beginner friendly. It smells really amazing. It's a very no stress type of craft. So I think that there's a lot of reasons that people are drawn to it, but I think it's also, people are really, the people that I work with or our types of customers are very environmentally conscious. And if you go to like the candle aisle at, a big box store, most of those waxes are not safe to burn in your home. They're actually not safe to breathe. The wax is not safe to breathe. The fragrances might not be safe and the wicks might not be safe. So it's kind of like a trifecta of like if you burn candles all the time, then you probably want to be using safer materials and you might want to even learn how to do it yourself. And it's also just like a save money kind of thing, which is a very core tenet of DIY. Can I make this myself? Can I save money doing it? Like, yes, I want to do it. Especially for people that are just into making, it's definitely the type of thing that if you burn candles, eventually you'll just take it over and start to do it yourself.
Okay, yeah. No, I had no idea. I need to start making candles.
What do people macrame? Because that's just kind of stitching, right?
Yeah, it's these really cool knots and knot patterns, and it's always in sections of 4. And so it's really interesting that...
What do you mean sections of 4?
So anytime you're making a macrame knot, you're going to be working with 4 cords. So you're really using like math and structure when you're creating this object. So I think that it's like it kind of hurts your brain when you first start doing it. And so it can be one of those crafts that can be a little bit intimidating, and I think that that's why people are drawn to the kits. It's the opposite of candle making. Candle making is like so beginner friendly, but macrame, it's like it just makes my eyes cross, when there's like a new knot that I don't know how to do. So it's like a kit is very appealing because all the knots are going to be planned out by somebody, but it's a great way to learn that craft. And
I hate to be obtuse, but you got a needle, right, and thread and knots. You're saying so.
There's no needle. There's cord, and it's cotton cord, but it's actually quite thick. So macrame cords are going to be the most common like cord size is 4 millimeters. So like a macrame cord is going to kind of have like the thickness of like in between my fingernails right here. So it's pretty thick. It's not like thread where it's like so thin. So we're not using a needle. And you actually use your hands. You use your arms. So you don't need a lot of...
weaving.
Yes, correct.
Weaving rope.
Yes, correct.
Duh.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're making planters out of it, or like something to
hanging
put ceramic
planters,
plants, ceramic
wall
pots.
hangings, art. And it's a really great way, like getting a kit is a great way to learn it.
That's right.
But it's something that's like, it's an affordable craft. It's something that like teens and tweens are really into for that reason.
It's beautiful, right? Like lots of different colors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, macrame cord comes in every color of the rainbow. You can weave lights into it and light up the macrame pieces that you've made. You can make huge macrame pieces that are, the size of a wall. You can make small pieces.
Can you make practical things like a seat throw or a
Yes.
rug or something?
Yeah, or like a chair back or coasters. It's really creative. It's applicable in so many different ways. You can do so many different things with it.
And how long does it take to work that before you're actually kind of doing it?
It's fast. Like once you get a couple of knots, you're okay. The thing about any macrame piece is you can get the hang of it once you learn a few knots, but to make something from beginning to end will take a significant amount of time. So it's definitely the type of thing like if you want something to do with your hands while you're watching movies, while you're watching TV, it's perfect for that. And so that's like a common thing with crafters, with makers. They're fidgety. They don't want to just sit there when they're at home. They want to be able to do something with their hands.
It's a quit smoking program.
Yes.
Helps along those lines.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I guess, in terms of thinking, like you have these kits that you're developing for people, and this might be my own like personal thing. Like room space is hard for me, like in decorating an entire room, right? Like, do you give anything along the lines like, here's, I guess, different patterns or way to kind of decorate whole spaces, or is it all individual projects? It's going to be my guy issue.
You're
I'm like,
hired. It's a really good idea. No, we
Okay.
actually don't do that, but you can definitely like pick and choose and fit things together, you know,
Okay.
from the kits that we make. But no, we don't
Okay.
have anything that's like
You should
bigger.
do that, because every
I
time
know,
I've been to a new
it's such a
space,
good
I'm like,
idea.
what I do, and then I have just stuff everywhere, and then I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
I would need help with that. That'd
Yeah.
be great. Yeah.
And I'm the type of person, like, I don't know if you're like this, but I'm the type of person where it's hard to like plan a space ahead of time. Like, it's like you kind of have to try it out
Mm-hmm.
and put things on the wall, and you're like, well, it's not quite right, and then like rearrange it.
Right.
And so it's like always a work in progress.
Yes, that
Yeah.
definitely comes up for me as well. And then like I get caught up in other stuff, but it'd be so nice to have something like, yeah, it's like interior decorating, but someone with style and knows what they're doing, that you can be accessible. And
Yes.
yeah, no, I love this idea, just having that all there and kind of cut down the stress so you can just make, you know, and enjoy your work. And I think it's a fantastic idea. And so 12 years it's been going, right? And you feel
Pop Shop Houston,
Yes, yeah.
12 years.
12 years.
I know, isn't that
Yeah.
wild?
It's past a decade.
I
That's
know.
a big deal.
Yeah.
And you were like the first in Houston, right? You
We
said?
were the first in Houston.
You brought it to
yeah.
Houston. Okay.
The first Saturday Arts Market. Shout out to Mitch
I
Cohen if you
remember it.
guys know him. He's amazing. That existed before us. It's a little bit different because it's more, you know, fine art and local artists and like kind of like paintings and things that you put on your walls, where we're more collectibles and kind of cute, fun, artist-made goods. And WHAM, Winter Holiday Art Market, shout out to Fresh Arts, that Winter Holiday Art Market is no more. But that existed before us. And actually, I didn't even know about that event until we were in our first year. And I was like, oh, okay, there is something that's kind of similar. Now, that was more fine art as well. But actually, over time, it kind of morphed into something that was a lot more like Pop Shop. But other than that, there was nothing at all. No way to interact with your local community and shop local and meet makers and something that was, you know, like a event.
Well, thank you for doing that. Yeah, adding this to the community, and I think that's huge too. We talk a lot about community radio, which is having a space, like you said earlier, a way to put money into the local economy, support
Yes.
makers. It's hard to do, and as things get more and more corporate, we're always talking about, you know, and international internet takes over things in good ways, some ways, but this allows us to remember like there's spaces where you can support community that matters, meet people, and
Yes.
support them. Yeah.
You can keep your money in the local economy instead of just shopping at the big box stores, and get something that like feels good, you know, when you for buying it, and like when you own it, and you can create this amazing memory about when you got it or who made it or how they made it, and all of those they can give, you know, meaning to our day-to-day life in a really wonderful way.
Definitely, and that gets me my Yates a little bit. But I was just wanted to say the history of something, to give like an art object or whatever you have that you cherish, to give it a history is meaningful. Maybe I'm just getting a little bit older, and
Yes.
it matters, you know, that something has existed in time, even if it has like the same functionality, right? And that gives it a different kind of aura. And I think that's really important to establish when we think about art, right?
Well, and it's true in fine art as well. Like we would talk about that in classes. The ownership of objects passed down through time is an important part of, you know, their upkeep or their value, you know, is kind of related to those things. So it's something that we do in all of those different art communities.
Yeah, that's true. And I think of that with like even the fact that like, I don't know, Da Vinci or whatever has been passed down, and that in itself attracts us to it, you know? Like it's the idea that people have cared enough about it to give it, not necessarily it's an amazing work of art, it's just that makes it amazing. And that is like a true space too, I guess is what I'm slowly becoming
Or
aware
the
of.
people, it can also give value to them, or a way that we can remember these people that held on to it through time.
Yeah, definitely. And like cherishing things that last. And yeah, and I can see something like this, it's important because you meet the people, it's something that's given to you, you're holding on to it. And yeah, you see people returning to it. There's a big concern, you know, 20 years ago, like when we were growing up, like the internet and everything's becoming more digital, but there's also this big pushback because people need that, that reality, that sense of distance that art is associated with. And I'm glad we still have spaces like this. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're
for
listening to Living Art with Michael Whitson and Michael Carson on KPFT Houston. Our guest is Brittany Bly, who's got Pop Shop Houston coming up at the TXR Labs on navigation, 6500 block navigation. And you can just Google Pop Shop Houston or Pop Shop America. Yeah. And I don't know. I've got this real abstract observation to make. I don't know if you all want to ask questions.
Go for it.
No, we want to hear
what's your
it.
abstraction?
Well,
Yeah.
you know, like it seems to me that what you did in walking into the museums and was more social or more relational with people, right? Like as opposed to the library. So you've got this living thing going on, relational thing going on, which maybe is related to postmodernism or something, where we were also talking about things, wouldn't call them dead necessarily, but like books, right? And words, especially things in libraries, right? Where you're dealing with tradition and history and, you know, words of long ago. So you're interested in painting, you know, like I'm interested in words because I have, you know, a degree in English and philosophy. So it just interested me that like somehow you're relating to the world, and maybe there's a language in the world that you experience when you walk into these spaces that are not libraries.
Yes. Well, and I think it's also like a learning style. Like when we go into the library, like I can't necessarily question the pages that I'm reading or the books that I'm reading. And, you know, it's not going to be a dialogue. Instead, it is something that's, you know, quiet and contemplative. And there's so many beautiful things about it. But I think for me, I just maybe get something out of being able to question it and understand it better in that way. And that's something that we can do, you know, in those museum and gallery spaces.
And I think the art itself used to be more iconic or something, right? Like you think of art in terms of famous artists. And we were talking about what, you know, what is, we use the word postmodern, and we'll just keep with that term, although we're not trying to define it tonight, right, at all. But this idea that something changed, let's say in the 80s, right, in art, and it's less iconic, right? Less like you have to discover your own genius, and you're looking at other geniuses to sort of like be part of that conversation or something.
Well, and I know that last week you guys were talking about Andy Warhol, and to me that really links back to that, like where everybody's going to have their 15 minutes, and I think that that's very true right now, and kind of like what you were saying, where, you know, we have to, like, it's not as iconic, or it's only iconic for a moment, or we have, you know, like influencers, or something goes viral, or we're just so, I don't want to say bombarded, so full of different media, and it's so easy to consume so many different things, you know, music or films or, you know, television shows or art. So many, there's so many ways to create, and then there's so many ways to consume, that when do we really, you know, how does somebody become iconic anymore? And maybe that's great. Like, we don't necessarily, you know, need that.
Yeah.
I wonder if it always was. I mean, art wasn't always looking for like the next genius to bring something to humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, Da Vinci, right? All respect to Leonardo.
Even that was like a studio system, like, or a master system, where you had lots of different apprentices that worked there that helped in the creation, and, you know, he was the studio head. But the iconic artist that you're talking about, to me, almost feels like a 20th century construct, where it's like really like modernism, and then you have the ability, you know, or maybe even through like print media, so maybe it even goes back a little bit longer than that, but really reaches its peak once things like television are introduced and they're in every household. Then maybe it like hits its sort of zenith and then starts to taper down from there.
Yeah, we're talking about the reduction of the canon, really, which is, as you say, a 20th century phenomenon, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's, and a couple of weeks ago we talked about like the beginning of the 1800s of being the need for artists, visual artists especially, to be new, to say something new all the time. And there's this breakdown in the 60s with Warhol where it kind of, you can't say anything new, it becomes kind of ridiculous. And then this guy was saying that that was an arbitrary, like, imposed concept. That's not in the history of art. People aren't trying to do new things. That's something that's very modern, right? And Warhol, in his weird, brilliant way, I think, is kind of saying that it's all over, right? But you have these 15 minutes where everyone can do something new in the sense that they feel that, right? And we're very much in that world, for better or worse. Probably better, because, like you're saying, there's something elitist and false about the idea of the genius artist, that it is really a construct post Da Vinci, right? And so I think it's definitely a modern thing.
But we're all, don't we have an impulse to like leave our mark? Maybe that's just me and my
Yes.
own grandiose
you get your
narcissism.
15 minutes. You get your 15
I
minutes
don't
right
want
now.
just 15 minutes.
You've had 25 years of this, Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we still have the idea of genius and like how are we going to last over time. But yeah, I think there's something shifted with art, definitely, about how artists do that. Yeah, and if this is like the postmodern world where it's more democratic, that means we no longer have that individual Rembrandt that we're discovering, right? And I feel that, to me, when I think of postmodernism, it's coming to terms with that almost as artist, in good ways, though, even though we still have this need to feel seen in some ways. But then we have to realize maybe like the whole time, like art itself is how we see things and relate to the past, not through fame, I guess, which I always felt Warhol was very funny about, like just kind of pointing that out in his way. But you said, we have about 10 minutes left, minimalism. That was your kind of thing. And you still kind of danced around. You never got to like, what was the work of art that we could have seen at Blaffer? And like, was it minimalistic, or what did you create there?
The piece one of my pieces that was at the Blaffer Gallery. So it was actually a collection of articles that I wrote when Free Press Houston was still a thing. I used to write an art column for Free Press Houston. And it was a collection of some of my favorites. And one of them in particular is about a friend of mine that's a visual artist that would claim that you could see like the Virgin Mary in a spoon that he had. And then he was like, I'm going to put this on eBay and see where this will lead. And that was the type of art that he was creating.
Very performance-ish.
And it was very funny. He had a very funny attitude towards the things that he was making. So that was one of the articles. One of my favorites was about, it was post Rita, I want to say. Maybe it was a different hurricane.
Rita is the one where everybody got caught in traffic.
It was an article about how hurricane maps and different weather maps and even like street signs in the color choices that they make really encourage like fear or get at something that's very primitive, like just like a stop and go. Like green, is often used, or like a light green is often used in like soothing things, or it's the color that we have like the widest range that we can see the most shades of. So it's something that's very comfortable and natural to the human eye, just because we are surrounded by plants and jungles and green things. Whereas red and its ability to tell us, that this is a warning, is something that naturally and primitively in us like tells us to stop, or tells us like this is danger. And so what I was saying is basically like in hurricane maps in particular, because this was after one of the major hurricanes in Houston, how they really amp that up, and it's not just used in its primitive sense, but it really creates kind of like a sense of fear-mongering that's just involved in the visually how they're displaying these ideas. So it was also an article about that.
Wow,
So it was
that's like super meta. I love this. So you actually like analyze when they put out not just the news reports being kind of dramatic, but like the actual maps they create to say like these are the flood zones and this is the way out. That creates like a traumatic effect on people. Yeah.
Yes, correct. So it was a collection of articles, but it did have some images in it as well. But yeah, as far as minimalism, that's so funny because it's like so different. Like, why do I have so much passion for minimalism? I don't know. It just stirs my spirit. It just speaks to me in a way that like words cannot, describe.
Yeah, and that's what, visual art. I've been spending a lot of times in museums recently and just thinking about the failure of language, these kind of still images. And yeah, you can't describe it. It just is, and you react to it in certain kinds of art. And that's there's no words. It's beautiful that it happens. And I think it's really funny that you actually were like an art critic and you never told us that before. Like you were like sharing articles and everything for this, letting us make mistakes all over the place. But
I mean, we forget, about the things that we do. Like I didn't even think about that Blaffer show until you mentioned it. Yeah.
All right. That's so great, though. Yeah. And so there's a long history, though. I love this image of you, dressed in black, going to the art museum.
I have a minimalist question, and to wrap this up. And okay, you came to the studio carrying a 4x4x4 box.
It's huge. You think it's 4x4? Or you think it's bigger?
It's at least 4x4
really big.
feet, not inches.
Like
feet.
Yeah.
I want to know if you're pranking us.
No, I'm so sorry. I literally, I got stuck in traffic, and I was trying to go to my house before I came here, but it was not going to happen, so I had to come straight here and got here a few minutes early. And I had it's like a UPS return. It's like little 4x6 bubble bags that when it shipped to us, the box had been torn open. So I'm like, it is supposed to have 1,000 tiny bags. So I'm like, I can't count this. Like, I'm going to have to return this to you and you deal with it. I don't know if it's all there. So that's why I have it there.
Well, the funny thing is I would have thought you could never lift that thing. It looked like a,
light.
Looked so heavy, right? And huge box. And I'm like, someone's pulling our legs.
No, it's all bubble bags. It's like the lightest thing in the world.
Art project in itself.
All right.
It really is. It's like a performance piece. Me just walking
you walk around showing off that, yeah.
So pitch your show real good here.
Yeah.
Pop Shop Houston is November 18th and 19th at TXRX Labs Makerspace, which is 6501 Navigation 77011. Again, that's November 18th and 19th. It's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's all kinds of cool local shopping, things like t-shirts, art, jewelry, terrariums, soap, candles, lots of fun stuff like that. There's also food trucks. There's also going to be free cocktails and lots of maker activities. So it's free to attend, and hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. The weekend before Thanksgiving, right?
That's right.
Okay.
So you don't have to miss your Thanksgiving plans to come to Pop Shop Houston.
And you get holiday gifts, right? You can buy holiday gifts.
Get your shopping done early and keep your holidays stress-free.
Be there. And also, I wanted to mention the Garnet Coleman Gallery, I think it's called. It's 3131 Gallery, and that's Friday from starting at 6:30, runs to 9 o'clock, I believe, and they're celebrating the founding members of Project Row Houses there. That's going to be a big deal over by Emancipation Park. And Tom Fody at La Carafe on Friday at 9:30.
And we should thank two of our big donors during the fund drive.
Yeah.
Ava Prakash, thank you so much for the big gift that you gave us.
Thank you.
And then it's Katrina McIsaac. We appreciate it very much. And so thank you for supporting Living Art and helping us bring people like Brittany on and celebrate the community and the art that it's producing. And thank you, Brittany. This is a lot of fun.
This is so much fun. Thank you so much.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Living Art on KPFT Houston 90.1 FM. It's kpft.org.
Hey, y'all, it's Cowboy Dave from the Prison Show. Tune in every Friday night from 9 to 11 Central Time on 90.1 FM and FM HD1 KPFT Houston. Callers are accepted about 9:45 p.m. Central Time at 713-526-5738. Y'all have a good week. Remember, it's KPFT Houston.